Hey everyone, welcome to the Twin Cities Collective podcast. I'm your host, Jenna Redfield, and today this is our first episode here in our brand new studio, and I'm here with Kaemmerer, correct?
Got it.
Yes, and she is a LinkedIn expert. She just wrote a brand new book called LinkedIn for the Savvy Entrepreneur. Is that what it is? Executive. Savvy executive. I'm so used to doing entrepreneur stuff. But that's really cool because I think it could also work with entrepreneurs and just anyone.
Absolutely.
So let's chat a little bit because I feel like I have never ever talked about LinkedIn on the podcast. I've mentioned it, but I've never had a full episode devoted to it. So can you kind of give us a little bit of your background and kind of how you got to where you are today?
So yes, I by experience am a marketing communications person, and most of my experience has been in the medical device world. I worked for 20 years for a major medical device company here in the Twin Cities, and in 2011, as they were experiencing a major downturn, they outsourced several departments, and among them was the marketing communications department. And so that meant that I was no longer able to work for the company, and my whole network was within that company. So that was a problem. And I was of an age that I thought I might never work again. And so I really couldn't imagine not working again because I have so much to give. And I thought, well, now I'll just put up a website and show the marvelous communications work that I can do. That thought lasted about 10 minutes when I realized that the company owned all of my productivity for the last 20 years. It was all company proprietary.
Wow, that's awful.
Well, it was. And I grieved about it for a long time. But I realized that LinkedIn could be a venue where I could cultivate a network beyond the company and really show my marketing savvy. And so I began to study in earnest about LinkedIn. How does it work, and how can you maximize your chance to be found? One day, as I was listening to a podcast, I heard about how executive recruiters use LinkedIn to find their candidates. And it's a very simple process. They put in the keywords, they put in some filters, and then the results come up. I thought, great, now I know this strategy and I will be able to use it to see how I'm doing. Of course, because I had great text, I thought I'd be found on the first page. I wanted to be found under marketing communications. Unfortunately, I couldn't find myself on the first page, not on the second page. Page 8, my eyes are beginning to water.
Wow.
Page 10 is the last page you can search, and I hadn't shown up.
Wow.
I'm going, what is this? I've followed all the rules that I've heard. I'm maximizing my keywords. I have great content. I have fallen into some unknown hole. I realized that there had to be a hole because I had been following the prescription, so to speak, of how to write a great LinkedIn profile. And I thought, well, already I've bombed out on being able to set up a website to show my beautiful work. I cannot bomb out on this platform. This has to work. So after about a month more study, I found the answer of what was the hole. So the hole was that we start at that the LinkedIn algorithm, search algorithm, starts at the top, trying to match the keyword that is being searched for. So it looks first at your headline. Great, I had marketing communications in my headline. Then it looks at your job titles. That was where I fell in the hole. My job title had been either principal or partner forever and ever because I was a consultant. Those are perfectly great titles for consultants, but they have no search engine optimization for marketing communications.
Yeah.
And my company name during that period of time before was either my name and associates or my name and somebody else's name and associates. Again, no SEO.
Yeah.
I'm going, okay, well, now I know what the hole is. It took a little time to figure out a creative way to walk around the hole, but I was determined to find it. And I knew that I couldn't just make up a title. I mean, how can you do that? People know who you are.
Yeah.
So I looked to my volunteer experience. I was chosen by a national charity board to serve on the board of directors. And they sought me out because of my marketing communications expertise. I was chosen by my city and my school system to serve on committees, and I was chosen specifically for my marketing communications expertise. I was wearing a hat on the committee. I'm wearing a hat on the board. People need to know that I'm going to stand out for good communications. And so on each of those positions, I put marketing communications advisor and member of the board, marketing communications advisor and member of the blah, blah committee. I was golden. That was the answer. LinkedIn makes an equivalent between positions that are paid and volunteer positions. And that was the ticket. The next time I looked, I was on page 1.
Wow. And so how long did that take between the two? Like when you changed it, was it like a day or
Yeah.
what? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So they're a lot faster than Google.
Yes, I think so.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I feel like I never knew that. So that's really interesting. I need to now change everything, and we're gonna maybe do that later. But so there's a bunch of different sections in LinkedIn, and I think this
Right.
is a part that I actually have told people like that. There's like the about section that like people haven't filled out.
Right.
And I told my friend, I said, hey, you haven't even filled that section out.
Right.
She didn't even know she had it missing. So could you kind of go through some of the sections on LinkedIn that maybe people don't know about or forget to
absolutely.
fill out?
Absolutely. So one of the reasons you are right about the about section, until recently it was called the summary section. It is your career summary. It's all about you. I think when they changed it to about, it's kind of follows the way that we write about ourselves on a website, for instance.
Yeah, totally.
So the reason that the about section is absolutely so important is that LinkedIn is a search engine, and every search engine has specific drivers. So one of the drivers of LinkedIn is your relationship to the person who's doing the search. And that means we need to have a large network. But the other driver is all about keywords. The second driver is the number of times the search word that they are looking for appears on your profile. So the about section is 2,000 characters. And if we have not accessed that, if we've not used those 2,000 characters, there is no way that we're going to show up high on a LinkedIn search.
So that includes the keywords as well in the about?
Oh, it includes all the keywords everywhere.
Wow, that's awesome.
So it is important that we utilize all those sections.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask, so I haven't really utilized LinkedIn for search. I've mostly used it as a way to find other people.
Sure.
So like how much of it is like you're setting up yours to be searchable versus how much you put effort into connecting with people? Is there like I guess there's different strategies on how to use LinkedIn.
Right. Well, there's just you want to be found for any opportunity that you are eligible for. So say somebody is looking for a graphic designer. If I'm a graphic designer, I want to make sure that if somebody in my community is looking for a local person, that I pop right out there because of the words that I am using. So do you want to go from the top of the
Yeah,
profile down?
I mean, and we can look at it on the computer if you'd like to. Otherwise, if you just know it by heart.
I know by heart.
Okay, let's do that then. Yeah, so it starts with your photo, which I think there are some very unprofessional photos on LinkedIn.
Oh, you are right. The worst mistake you can make on LinkedIn is no photo.
Yeah, true.
So LinkedIn tells us that we are 21 times more likely to have our profile opened if we have a photo than if we don't.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh my, that is really an egregious error.
Yeah.
But a poor photo is really a bad one too, because when you don't know somebody, they forever look like that bad photo.
Yes, that's true.
And even if you have met them in person and you haven't seen them in a long time, the image that you conjecture in your that you conjure in your head about what they look like is the picture that you see over and over. Your picture shows up every time you post or comment. It is your brand. It is a huge part of your brand, and so it really makes sense to spend time and effort and money to get it done right.
Yeah, and I mean, we have so many photographers in our Facebook group. There's lots of them, trust me. I think it's good to have like a lot of different photos. Then you can use it on your website. You can use it for so many things.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Sure.
so then the next thing is your title, right? Your name and then your title.
Okay, you know that I'm going to pick up one extra little area, and it is the LinkedIn banner.
Banner, yes.
The banner is that blue thing that looks like it has some dots that are connected, intersecting. Maybe it's supposed to evoke your network. So lame. So, especially for those listening to this podcast who have creative bents, being visual is part of our brand, and we can pick images that evoke our brand. It can be a beautiful landscape. It can be something a little bit more direct, or mine. I have a Care 11 scene where I'm talking to Anchor.
Like on TV. Yeah.
On
Okay,
TV.
that's cool.
Yeah, and some speakers use a big audience with them speaking on a stage. So there are a lot of things that we can do with that, and because we make our first impressions very quickly. Research tells us in person we make our first impressions in 7 seconds. So on LinkedIn, you can't imagine that people are making a first impression in too much more than 7 seconds. So anything visual that we can add adds to our brand. Okay.
Yeah.
So we got the banner and we've got your picture, and those are the visual beginnings of your profile. Then you've got your name. Can't get that wrong.
Yeah.
And then you have your headline. So the headline is something that we can customize. LinkedIn auto-fills the headline, so everyone has the headline, and they auto-fill it from your current position. But we can be so much more powerful than just some position title. We can talk about, we can leave that position title, that's fine. Then put a colon. We have 120 characters to use to really capture our brand. So who do you serve? What do you do? How do you do it? What are the 3 things you want to be known for? Any of those things can help color in your title. It is an advertising slogan for yourself. And it's not something that you should think 2 minutes about and slap it up, because everyone who's in branding knows that branding something is really important.
It is.
Just like your picture, your headline appears with your name every time you post. It's huge. And so you need to really think about what are the key words that you want to emphasize? What are the feelings that you want your prospective clients to have? how can you maximize that? So that's the headline.
Yeah. And one question I had from you, just from your opinion, I've used like emojis before. Do you think that's a good strategy or not?
I don't.
Don't? Okay.
But you are and I are from different
That's
generations.
true. I thought it was like an easier way to show like quickly without having to use a lot of characters, like what I do, like in terms of like, for example, like the podcast, I put like a microphone, but then at the same time, I also was like, well, that doesn't really show up in search. So that's the part where I was like,
Oh, well, that's true.
Yeah. Unless you search an emoji, which I don't think you can do.
I don't think so. I think it probably has to do with what is your target audience.
Okay.
But it is true that you can't
Search emojis. Yeah. So I do think, so I've actually taken it away, I think. So it's something I've been curious about because I see other people doing it. So it's not like I'm the only person doing it, but I was curious if that was a good strategy. Okay. So then with the headline, does it matter where in the headline words are placed?
No.
It's just the full thing.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Sometimes on YouTube, it's like if it's further like at the beginning, it'll show up if it's like the first two words. So that's interesting. I don't know if that's...
Well,
I don't know. Well, I don't know how
too
the
far
algorithm
down
works.
in the algorithm for me to
Yeah. Okay. So then underneath the headline, it's the about, right? Or
yes.
Is it? Okay. And we talked about that a little bit. And then below that is, I'm trying to remember.
Your experience.
So that's like your resume kind of, right? Okay.
So your experience, you get to list each of your job positions and you get 2,000 characters to talk about it.
Wow.
So that's a lot of space, and we want to make sure that you're using that character count to good effect. So again, like in the about section where we had 2,000 characters, the strategy for at least your first position, your most recent position, your current position, is to use all 2,000 because it's where your keywords are living. So when I write an experience entry, I recommend that first you talk in maybe 2 lines about the company so that we create a context. It's a whole different thing to be the CEO of your one-person company versus to be the CEO of Fortune 500 company. And so we need to know what is the context in which you experience these accomplishments. And then after you talk about the company, you need to talk about your experiences or your accomplishments.
Okay.
Accomplishments is what we're looking for in bullet points. So it's not just your responsibilities because that's your job description. What we need to know is how have you moved the needle for your company? What are the metrics associated with that? The more we can use numbers, the more it sticks because just like we are hardwired to use visuals, we are also hardwired to remember numbers, impressive numbers.
Yeah.
So if you grew your audience, for instance, or you did more with less, or whatever it is, numbers really stand out.
Yeah.
So bullet points.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a description, then you add bullet points. Is kind
Absolutely,
of what you do.
yeah.
And how many bullet points would you say?
How many do you need to get to
That's
2,000
true.
characters?
That's true. Okay.
Right. 8.
Oh, wow.
Maybe.
Okay. I do not have that many. I'm like, look, I'm thinking about it. I'm like, mine is really bad right now.
Well, one of the things that you could talk about is the audience that you have developed, the places that you are supporting.
Yeah.
You can even take some credit for some of the good outcomes of the people that are part of your collective.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Well, because I do a lot of coaching too. So that's kind of part of it is part of me is like, should I brag about like my followers? That's always something weird to me is should I say, I know it's not bragging, but it feels like it to me sometimes. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to come across that way. So that's the part that I struggle with is, do I say, oh yeah, I have 15,000 followers? Like that seems like a brag. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
one of the things that we have to do is realize that if we don't toot our own horn, no one else will.
That's true.
And 15,000 followers is impressive.
Yeah, that's true.
And, one of the things that we can do is show external proof. If you had some award for most follower growth,
gotcha.
something like that, then you could use that. But really, we should not be shy about claiming who we are and what we do.
Yeah.
Now, if you are, the thing that you are claiming was done by a team, it's really appropriate to say with the executive team, blah, blah, blah. That you're not working by yourself or with my creative counsel, blah, blah, blah. It's important to give some credit where credit is due. Very few of us create outstanding results all by ourselves. We have partners and friends and cheerleaders.
That's true. Hey guys, are you enjoying this episode of the Twin Cities Collective podcast? Make sure to take a screenshot, post it to your Instagram story, and tag Twin Cities Collective, and we will repost it. I'm so excited to share that I have a brand new one-on-one coaching program for small business owners and marketing teams. I will educate and walk you through how to have a growing and consistent social media plan that will attract new clients, sales, and promote your brand or business. Our coaching sessions will help you feel confident in planning and strategizing your posts, creating meaningful content that will captivate your audience. Get all your social media questions answered from someone who has seen it all. Trust me, I have. I'm tired of seeing small business owners struggling with marketing companies that have scammy tactics that focuses on their bottom line and not yours. Organic results from best practices for whatever your passion is. Interested in learning more? Head to TwinCitiesCollective.com and click on the coaching page on the front menu. You can sign up for a free call to learn more and see if you'd be a good fit. Now back to the podcast.
Right.
Yeah, it's so funny because it's actually the opposite. I've always been the only marketing person at all the jobs I've had. Yeah. So it's like, it is all me, but at the same time, it's utilizing the audience and the community and their support as well. Because like Twin Cities Collective, a lot of it is me, but a lot of it wouldn't be existing without our audience and the people that have volunteered and helped with all of the events. So it's like, even though I'm doing 95% of the work, a lot of the actual outcomes comes from other people's support. So I think that's really powerful. And I think you're right. LinkedIn is a place to talk about yourself. It's different than Facebook or Twitter, which is more of conversations. This is really where people need to be impressed.
Right.
And it is a way to show off what you do. So one of the things you can also do with experience is you can add like files and videos and all of those things, right?
Absolutely. So this is a place for your visuals. Pictures are wonderful. Videos are fabulous. It's not so great to add documents.
Okay.
Because documents show
no one clicks on them.
Well, no, it kind of looks like a blank. It just doesn't have any visual appeal.
There's no thumbnail.
Right. And so that's not the very best thing, to load up your resume, for instance. I don't recommend that because it's just not pretty.
Yeah, totally. And I think you can also add a link too. So you could have like your website if you don't have any of those other things. Because I was just helping somebody with theirs the other day and I was like, oh, you don't have a link. Yes. And you could.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So how do you put all of your experience, like since you started working?
No. Now, you need to put all your
I haven't had a lot of jobs though. So I'm like, I don't know if I want to put them all. Yeah.
Okay. So, for a senior level executive, we often suggest 15 years or so.
Okay.
I have more of my experience listed because I had my consulting business forever and ever and ever. And I wanted to get in some of my prior experience. And so mine goes on and on. But you don't have to put everything in there, especially people who are older and are concerned about telegraphing their age.
Interesting. I never even thought about that.
Oh, that's something
But
I think about all the time.
For me, it's like the opposite. Like when I was starting out, like I had no experience. So
Right.
it was kind of like when you're on the young end, it's kind of like you add all the jobs you've ever had just to make it seem like you
absolutely.
have more experience. So
Right.
it's kind of interesting that to think about the other end of that too.
Yes. So yeah, if you're older, there are all kinds of strategies that are employed to make sure that people don't get to pinpoint your age. I mean, it's obvious that you getting a little wrinkly.
Yeah. But I mean, photos, you can have a really great photo and you never know. But that's interesting. Like, I kind of want to get into that, but I feel like a lot of our audience is a bit on the younger side.
Absolutely,
so I feel like I don't know if I want to get into like the ageism
No.
of hiring and stuff. Because the one thing I really wanted to talk about too is, so you work with a lot of executives, but a lot of our audience is self-employed. So I think a lot of them aren't looking for a job, but they are looking for clients like you are as a consultant.
Absolutely.
So how does one use it differently when you're not job searching? Because I think people and a lot of people are like, wait, LinkedIn? Isn't that when you look for jobs?
Okay,
So like, how do you consistently, even when you have a job, how do you utilize LinkedIn? I know this is a huge question.
Oh, it is a huge question.
Yeah.
And it is important because so many people think of it as a job search tool. It's really about steering your career and attracting your ideal audience, whether your audience is clients or customers or vendors or whether you're looking for volunteer experiences, any of those things. If we have a great LinkedIn profile, it serves us well. It also serves our company well. If we're working not just for ourselves, but working for somebody else, how wonderful it is that somebody else has a great person working for them and everybody can see how great that person is. So employers should be more excited about having their employees look good on LinkedIn, because when their employees look good on LinkedIn, the company looks good.
True. So one thing also I'm trying to work on is my actual company page.
Yes.
Too. So like if you have your own company or maybe you're the social media manager, you're probably linked to that page and you're updating. So is there any best practices with having a page for your business?
Yes. So the most important reason that you need a company page is so the logo of your company is kind of registered in with LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So that LinkedIn has access to your company logo and could put it on your personal page. But you should be driving all your traffic from your personal page. You should post, not your company for the most part.
Yeah.
So on the LinkedIn company page,
Talk about so the page.
Okay.
So you just have it on your you just have the page just for LinkedIn to know about, and so you send everything to your personal.
okay, yes. The most important thing about your company page is that it is the way that LinkedIn recognizes your logo and puts it on your personal profile and on the profile of anybody who works for you. But so I tend to not post a lot to my company page. I post once a month because I write an article about LinkedIn once a month on LinkedIn, and I always post it to my company page. But my company page is a great repository of the actual articles that I've written, but I don't spend a lot of time there.
Okay.
Unlike a Facebook company page where you're trying to get people to like your company page, that's not the deal. The deal for a solopreneur who is really trying to keep her head above water, where do we put our social media time? It's not on that company page.
Yeah, I totally, and it's interesting because I've heard like different things, but that makes sense because that's what I do. I post mostly on my personal because I know people are going to see that. I don't have as many followers or likes.
Right.
Another thing, we have a LinkedIn group. I've never used it. I started one day. We got maybe like 30, 40 people to join it, and now I've done nothing. But I'm not in a lot of LinkedIn groups. I don't really see them showing up on my feed. So is that something to be part of?
LinkedIn groups. So the most important thing about LinkedIn groups is that it grows your network. So when at the beginning of our conversation, I talked about the two drivers of the LinkedIn search algorithm, and those were your relationship to the person who is doing the search, and then also the number of times you are using the keyword they're searching for. That first one is helped out by being a member of groups. Now, this just means that you join the group. It doesn't mean that you spend a lot of time with the group. It used to be that LinkedIn groups were more exciting than they are now. Now, not so much. And I don't spend a lot of time with LinkedIn groups. I post my article to some LinkedIn groups once a month, but I'm not going to the group every day. It used to be that the group manager could send out an email once a week to the group and point out certain things and highlight. It was pretty great. Now groups are not where it's happening, but joining groups is a very good career strategy because it grows your network without knowing people one-on-one.
Okay, that makes sense. And I feel like, well, because I have a Facebook group, and that's really where most of our audience is on Facebook groups, just because that's where I post a lot, and Instagram is obviously our second or more bigger platform. But I feel like the LinkedIn groups, I've just never found them interesting. I don't know any of these people. Like I just don't know what to post on there. I don't know, like, if you're allowed to just self-promote. It just doesn't seem very organized in my opinion.
It isn't very organized right now. It used to have strong group moderation, and there would be discussions, and they would get heated, and then there would be sanctions, and
Totally.
Okay, not happening anymore.
Yeah, totally, definitely not. Okay, so I just want to make sure it's still working. So we kind of didn't finish going through the profile. I kind of had just too many questions. But so after the experience, then there's a couple of other categories. There's like accomplishments and what's it called? Like recommendations, or when people give you, what are they called? I don't know.
Oh, endorsements.
Endorsements, yes. I was like, something about recommendations. I've never really utilized those. I have a few people that have endorsed me, but I never asked them to. They just kind of did it. And I was like, I don't know. Now I'm like, I don't know how to ask for them,
Okay. So there are two different ways that people can give you some praise along the way. So the first is endorsements, and those are endorsing you for particular skills. And we didn't really talk about the skills inventory, but I'll talk about that later. The other category is recommendations, and that's where people write you a testimonial. I worked with Jenna, and she had amazing insights into my business, and I implemented these things, and lo and behold, I had these results. That would be a recommendation. Endorsing you for marketing strategy is as simple as clicking a box. So the effort required is significantly different. Sometimes when someone asks me for a recommendation, it can take me a full day to craft my recommendation. Not that I'm spending a whole day writing, but you write it and then you look at it again, because a recommendation lives forever. And you have to make sure that you are saying things that are absolutely verifiable, truthful. It's really important because your recommendation lives on and on.
So why do people write recommendations? Is it for them to also be seen, or is it just more of like a nice thing to do for people? Like, I guess I just, like, I haven't really written many for other people, and I probably should.
Well, it is the highest compliment that you could pay, because you know that it takes effort to do.
Yeah.
So it is a wonderful thing. And therefore people put great stock in recommendations. So for instance, I'm a speaker. One of the one of the huge things is to have recommendations from people who have hired me, so that the other people who are thinking, well, will she, bomb? Will she not be able to talk? Will she engage my audience? They can read, yes, she engages the audience, that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
So I did want to talk about the skills inventory, because that is huge,
Yes.
and it's changed over time.
Okay.
In the last 18 months, they have given us the power to select the top 3 skills that we want to show on our profile. And that's huge. When I do a branding consultation with someone, one of the questions that I ask is, what are the 3 things you want to be known for? So then when we decide what are those 3 things we want to be known for, the top 3 skills should match.
That's true.
There should be a congruence between those things. And in the past, the things that were at the top were the things that were most endorsed. And that came from a period of time when LinkedIn was, every time you logged in, it would ask you if one of your key friends had these skills. Now, some of the skills could have been on their profile already, but some of them were skills that are often associated with skills that they had listed. Sometimes LinkedIn got that wrong. For instance, I had someone who sells property and casualty insurance say to me, why is it I have 25 endorsements for health insurance? I never sell health insurance, and nobody who sells property and casualty insurance sells health insurance. Why could that be? And I said, well, LinkedIn kept recommending it, and you kept accepting the endorsement.
Yeah.
And so that's how it happens. Now we can clean that out. We're no longer having our skills frozen in that endorsed state. So it's much better.
Yeah. So can you set that up now to only have a few that you really want, or how many do you have for skills?
Okay. The maximum number is 50.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that's the number that I recommend.
Okay. There you go. I probably should add some more.
Yeah. Well, the LinkedIn skills inventory is richer than it used to be. So, for instance, instead of leadership, you might go back in and put in the term leadership and see, oh, we have strategic leadership. We have cross-functional team leadership. Some more nuanced skills where the word leadership shows up, but also some other word like strategic. And strategic is another key word. And so that is actually a more powerful thing. If you are a strategic leader, that would be more powerful than just choosing leadership, which is just kind of flat.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. So I wanted to ask you, you mentioned something that we had talked about on the phone before this podcast about the 3 things you should be known for. I kind of want to go back to that because that's something that really stuck with me, because I feel like I have like a bunch of things I'm known for. And so it's like really just narrowing that down to 3 is so hard sometimes for me and for, I'm sure, a lot of other entrepreneurs. So how do we figure out like what are the things people should know us for on LinkedIn?
Okay. Well, it really has to start at your heart center. What is it that you want to be known for? If we list 6 things instead of 3 things, it's not twice as good. It's not even half as good. 3 things. We are, as people, hardwired to remember 3 things. If you list more than 3 things, and especially the more and more you list of 3 things, the less credible you are, because you can't be good. You can't be equally good or equally passionate about 6 things, for instance. We want to know the main things. You can pick like a bigger category, which subsumes some other discrete things. But I wouldn't list more than 3 things as your top 3 things. I have an article that I wrote a couple of months ago, and it's called The Power of 3. And advertisers, speakers, and writers have historically used 3 because it is absolutely memorable. From Goldilocks and the 3 Bears and the 3 Billy Goats Gruff.
Yeah, true.
To great sayings.
Trilogy, the word trilogy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. All of the things that stick in our heads really draw on that power of 3. A good preacher or a good speaker often use 3 illustrations or 3 key things they want you to remember, because we remember 3. And so you really have to introspect for quite a long time to figure out what are your best 3 things, and let the others follow along. It's not that we are jettisoning them, we're just not giving them the spotlight. Those those more than 3 things, we can put those in our skills, because we have 50 skills.
That's true.
And you're going to use those as fill-in words in all of your text. But if you're going to make a point about what you are known for, go for 3.
Okay. So before we finish this podcast, I wanted to mention your book. So this was just recently published, right?
So it was published 3 years ago, actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep. It's called LinkedIn for the Savvy Executive. And one of the reasons that you think it was recently published is that I have a real push to make sure that it gets on the Barnes and Noble shelves in the Twin Cities.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing a lot of signings this year.
Okay.
And it's going very well. I'm really excited about that. And after I published my book, I was just so exhausted that it sat there for a little bit. The other thing that is interesting is that being a person who has studied LinkedIn, I, of course, know that it changes all the time. So I wrote my book so that it would be evergreen. It is a strategy book of how you can really convey your brand powerfully on that platform, both in your profile and also in how you interact online. We can get great value from that.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for being here today. I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode. How do we find you? Obviously on LinkedIn and on other social media platforms.
Okay. Well, the worst problem is that my name is very long. It's Carol Kaemmerer, and the last name is Kaemmerer. So my website is carolkaemmerer.com.
Nice.
And my LinkedIn, of course, is LinkedIn and my name. And you can find me on Facebook too, but that's not my big place.
Go to LinkedIn and add her, because that's where she. And
that's
then you can
where
see,
I live.
and then you can see all of her own profile and also the posts that she does. Well, thank you so much. I feel like I want to talk forever, but I know I got to end the podcast. But thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much. What a pleasure.
Yes.